While drivers across America are finally seeing gas near $3 a gallon, Californians are still staring at prices around $4.50 to $4.60 and wondering who's cashing in. It feels like a different country at the pump. When most of the country is finally breathing at the pump, with prices flirting around $3 a gallon, California drivers are still staring at signs that scream $4.50, $4.70, even higher. It feels like you're living in a parallel economy. That price gap isn't random noise on a chart. It's structural, baked into how California's fuel market works, and how it's taxed and regulated. That's a game changer. Start tracking your local price once a week and comparing it to the national average. When you see the spread, the story becomes impossible to ignore. Picture this. You pull up, swipe your card, and that $4.79 on the screen isn't just paying for crude oil. Inside that single gallon, you've got the raw fuel, the cost of refining it, the delivery chain, plus a maze of taxes, fees, and environmental add-ons that can easily stack to well over $1. The same barrel of oil produces a much cheaper gallon in other states. That difference is policy, not magic. Take 30 seconds to look up your state's tax and fee breakdown. Knowing exactly where each cent goes gives you real leverage in every debate. Think back to that moment in 2022, when California prices suddenly felt insane. When social feeds were full of people posting $6, even $7 pump photos. That wasn't just a bad week, it was a political earthquake. Overnight, normal went out the window. And anger turned into press conferences, investigations, and promises to crack down on oil companies. Those few brutal months rewired how Sacramento talks about fuel, regulation, and gouging. Don't just remember the price, remember what it triggered. Anytime you see a surge now, ask which new rule or investigation might follow next. So here's the big question. Can a law actually force refiners to behave, or does it just give politicians someone new to point at? California's new rules let regulators peek inside refinery profits and, in theory, cap how much they can make per gallon. On paper, that sounds like a superhero move. We'll stop the gouging. In reality, it's a tightrope between protecting drivers and scaring off investment in already fragile infrastructure. Laws can change incentives, not physics. Anytime you hear about a new anti-gouging measure, look for the fine print on how it handles supply. Behind the headlines, California quietly built a watchdog whose entire job is to stare at the fuel market all day long. Regulators now track refinery margins, imports, maintenance schedules, and weird price spikes in near real time. When prices suddenly jump, they can see who was offline, who cut output, and who made a killing. That level of transparency can discourage the most blatant games at the pump, but it doesn't automatically make gas cheap. Watching the market is easier than fixing it. When a spike hits, check whether officials release real data or just recycled talking points. Here's the twist nobody at the pump thinks about. California now pushes refineries to keep more fuel on hand and plan better for outages, so one hiccup doesn't send prices into orbit overnight. On paper, it's smart. More inventory means fewer surprise shortages and less chaos when a refinery goes down. But holding extra product, arranging backup supplies, and meeting new planning rules all cost money. And those costs don't disappear. They drip straight into the final price you pay. Insurance against spikes is never free. Whenever you hear about stronger safeguards, remember someone still funds the safety net. Ask yourself honestly, did gas jump because oil exploded? Or because a quiet tax hike kicked in while you were busy working? In California, tiny increases in fuel taxes, plus adjustments tied to climate and air quality programs, can nudge prices upward penny by penny. 1 or 2 cents doesn't sound like much until you multiply it across every fill-up for a year. Suddenly, that small adjustment is hundreds of dollars gone. Pennies per gallon turn into real money. Make it a habit to check state tax changes once a year so you know who's really turning the screw. California's fuel rules aren't just words in a bill. They're invisible price tags hanging over every gallon you buy. Special cleaner blends, stricter emissions standards, and aggressive climate targets each add a little friction, a little cost, a little complexity. Alone, none of them looks like a gas price villain. Together, they create a permanent premium that drivers in other states simply don't face. Cleaner air and climate goals matter, but so does what you pay to get to work. Cleaner air came packaged with costlier commutes. When new regulations are announced, always ask how they touch the pump. Here's the weird part. Prices can technically come down and still feel like you're getting robbed. When you've seen $6 or $7 a gallon, $4.50 almost looks like a deal, until you remember the rest of the country is paying $3. That psychological trick is powerful. The chart says relief, but your wallet still screams. Once people get used to extreme numbers, anything slightly lower gets sold as progress. When pain becomes normal, trust evaporates. Don't just celebrate that today's price is lower than last year's peak. Compare it to what others pay and ask who benefits from the gap. If any of this matches what you've lived at the pump, take 2 seconds and hit like. That's how this kind of breakdown reaches more drivers who are just as confused and frustrated. Drop your city and the last price you paid in the comments so we can map out where Californians are getting hit hardest. I'll feature some of your receipts in a future video. And if you want deep dives on food prices, power bills, housing costs, the whole cost of living puzzle, make sure you're subscribed. If this breakdown helps you, help it reach more people. It's easy to paint refineries as cartoon villains counting money while you swipe your card, but the reality is messier. California has fewer refineries than it used to, and when one goes down for maintenance or an unexpected issue, the whole system tightens and prices react fast. Add tough state rules, and some companies think twice before investing in upgrades or extra capacity. That fragility shows up as sudden spikes that feel like gouging. You can't cap prices if you choke supply. Instead of just blaming big oil or bad laws, ask how many refineries are left and what happens if one goes dark. When you're paying $1 or more above the national average, that extra money doesn't just vanish into thin air. It's sliced up between higher state taxes, environmental programs, refinery margins, and the basic cost of doing business in California. Some of it funds roads, transit, and climate projects. Some of it is pure profit. Some just covers operating in an expensive state. Every gallon you buy quietly funds someone's agenda. Start looking up where fuel tax and fee revenue actually goes in your budget reports. Follow the money before you follow the slogans. On paper, California's anti-gouging laws were sold as the hammer that would finally crush outrageous price spikes. And yes, since they were introduced, we've seen fewer insane, overnight jumps like in 2022. But here's the catch. Your everyday price at the pump is still among the highest in the country. It looks like the laws smoothed volatility more than they slashed costs. Stable pain is still pain. When politicians brag about protecting consumers, compare your victory lap to your actual monthly fuel bill. Imagine trying to be the climate hero, the big oil slayer, and the cost of living savior at the same time. That's the tightrope California's governor walks every time gas prices flare. Push too hard on refineries and you risk shrinking supply. Go too soft, and voters accuse you of protecting profits over people. Meanwhile, every new climate target raises questions about affordability today versus promises for tomorrow. You can't outlaw physics or basic economics. When you watch those press conferences, listen for trade-offs, not just applause lines.